Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I am joined by Max and Louie. Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday. It's once again another week completed within this range. As I was telling the Discord this morning, it's funny we have these movements intra-week, and at the end of the week, you look back and you're like, oh, well, I guess Bitcoin is still trading at the same price as New York Open on Monday. But that's not to say that there has been nothing going on this week. Obviously, as we've talked about throughout the week, there's been a lot of opportunity on chain and in altcoin markets, and of course, in individual equity as well as crypto stock chart or crypto charts that we will be talking about on this stream as well. Before we can do that, guys, before we can start diving into not just what those tickers are, as well as what alpha that we have and where we think these charts are going, you know what I'm going to ask you. And it's Friday, so I know most of you are probably in a pretty good mood. At least if you hate the weekend, I would be a little concerned, because we are coming up on it. But I'm going to ask you all to smash that like button for us on this lovely Friday. I would love to hit 300 likes live on stream, and I know that you guys can do it. So that is my goal. If Chef Jackus were here, as I always joke, that goal would probably have to be it would have to be higher. But I let you guys off easy today on Friday. I would love to see 300 likes on this stream while you're all here. But like I said, happy Friday. Let's go ahead and get into what the market is doing today. Jokingly, I said Bitcoin is at the same price as it was Monday, New York Open. But of course, that's not to say that it's been a week where there hasn't been opportunity. And I highlight on chain, but I also feel like I should highlight the movements that we see on an intra-week basis in all coins, right? I mean, some of these things will trade 10 to 15%, 10 to 20% in either direction before ultimately reverting to the mean. So like I said, there's been no shortage of volatility and no shortage of opportunity, despite the fact that majors remain at this inflection point, that we're kind of waiting for them to flip to be that full-blown risk-on signal the rest of the market.
That's right, Chimp. I found you. I'm watching you now.
Dude, he's got a crazy accent, this guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tommy. I just,
No, it's fine. Maybe we get Chimp phone up here for the stream at some point next week or something like that.
Actually, Chimp, do you want to come on the stream today, brother?
Come up.
It's a Friday show. Chimp, if you want to come on the show, let me know. I'll send you a link. All right.
For those who don't know, Chimp Phone is a founder. He is a founder. Just
yeah,
he is a founder. He is in the trenches. He is just like you and I. But we'll see if we can get him on the stream to talk about that.
Founder.
Yeah, Chimp's my boss.
Oh man.
Now we're gonna have a good time on the stream today, though, guys. We're gonna highlight individuals. Solana still looks great. Bitcoin still looks great. Obviously, both Bitcoin and Sol look great on their ETH pairs. I know that has been a very heavy topic that people have discussed publicly this week. Is ETH sentiment. I'm sure that'll be something that we discuss on today's show as well. Of course, meme coins as well. Equities, once again, are a tank that look like they're closing near their highs. And I know it's the morning, but I still think unless something crazy happens with volatility, you're probably going to see the S&P trade near like 6,000, 6,100 in that vicinity within the next few weeks. And if you do get some sort of volatility spike, I guess, we can kind of assess what that looks like. But so far today, I'm looking at the proxies that kind of assess volatility, and they look like they are getting crushed into the end of the month. So I view that as a positive for markets. I think it's just a matter of, okay, crypto, when are you going to take your turn? But I don't want to yap about it for too long, guys. I'd love to get y'all involved in the conversation, of course. How are we doing on this lovely Friday? Do we have any fun weekend plans? Of course, because I always ask that question on Fridays. And of course, the most important question of all is, what are you seeing in the markets? But I would argue on Friday, I I'm very interested to know what you guys are doing over the weekend.
Probably just being angry at crypto like I usually do. I don't. What else can a man do? Everything pumps except crypto. ETH is once again correlated to anything that is down. It has a way of doing that. It's like a chameleon. Just finds anything that's red and is like, yep, I'm going to trail that today. MSTR, again, pushing new highs. Bitcoin still cucked. ETH still cucked. Altcoin still cucked. I think crypto's dead forever, guys. I think we should just pack it up, move on. I'm going to rebrand the company to Because Mega Cap Tech, no longer Because Bitcoin.
Because AI, maybe.
Because AI, yeah. Because cheating, and that's it. That's it. I'm just gonna think about all the mistakes I've made investing in a dead asset class this weekend. Might have some coffee, might have like a bagel or something, But yeah, that's it. That's it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to let's look at it like this, all right? I mean, I look at MSTR and I'm like, what the hell is going on with Bitcoin? Like, how can you have a company which is shoving Bitcoin out trading the very thing that it's shoving, by that much, right? Somebody's lying. And we're going to figure out who. I can only imagine that Bitcoin is just kind of lagging MicroStrategy here. I can't reconcile it any other way. I will not accept a regime in which the commodity in which this company is buying, the company is pumping, but the underlying commodity, which is directly tied to the valuation of this company, is not. So I think you're going to see a big game of catch up or something very, very soon, because this is incredible. Like, look at this chart, guys. Look at the MicroStrategy chart. Look at the monthly meat stick. Do you see the monthly meat stick?
Meat stick go boom.
Yeah, meat stick does go boom. Look at this thing. Unbelievable. Here's the part that pisses me off, and I'm mad at myself, is that instead of just buying MicroStrategy, which I knew was going to do well. There's old videos, old streams somewhere talking about this, like debating, do you want to buy Coinbase stock? Do you want to buy MicroStrategy? Do you want to buy Bitcoin? Do you want to buy altcoins? You didn't even have to play altcoins. All you had to do was just full port MicroStrategy in the bear market and outperform most altcoins and Bitcoin. It's all that anyone had to do. And here we are with complicated, illiquid portfolios when all we had to do was full port MicroStrategy. This thing from the bear market lows went from $13 to $250 already, and it's leading everything in crypto. Good for Michael Saylor, for real.
Now, do you think this is like the suits like front running inevitable Bitcoin pump, or do you think this is taking liquidity away from Bitcoin because now MicroStrategy owns so much Bitcoin? Is it like, the suit that would normally go ahead and just buy Bitcoin, they're just like, oh, well, I can just buy MicroStrategy now. Why buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it, is just why go through the hassle of buying your own Bitcoin when you can just buy shares of MicroStrategy? It's Bitcoin with cash flow attached to it, is what it. That's what I always said. I'm like, why would you buy anything other than MicroStrategy, right? Like, it's Bitcoin that has a yield.
An actual company.
It's probably both, right? Because you have people from TradFi who, it's like you said, Louis, they treat MicroStrategy for what it is. It's Bitcoin beta. So they buy that instead of Bitcoin, which theoretically takes value out of Bitcoin. But, and this is the Ponzi side of it that Michael Saylor has built, when MicroStrategy goes higher, they can buy more Bitcoin. So there is kind of like this bleed over effect. So I don't think the MicroStrategy chart is leading Bitcoin, but I do know if MicroStrategy is going higher, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy can buy more Bitcoin. So it's not inherently like a bearish thing for Bitcoin that MicroStrategy looks so bullish. Although I will say the way that they are doing it does create risk down the road, and we'll probably approach that at some point in the future. I have no idea when, but we talk about like Ponzi's of the cycle. This is the one. It'll probably build Bitcoin up substantially before ultimately kind of taking it down. But for now, I view it more as a tailwind than a headwind.
So are we going to catch up to MicroStrategy, or are we just cooked against it?
Well, taking just MicroStrategy out of the picture, just leave it there. It looks good. But I said this on Spaces, what was it, Wednesday, as well as on the Discord call this morning. But that giant candle you're seeing on MicroStrategy, I've been saying the past couple of days that once Bitcoin trades up into the 70K level, we're going to see 5 to 10K candles on Bitcoin, and it's probably going to look exactly like MicroStrategy's chart right there, just due to the fact of how long we've consolidated. The amount of the billions and billions of dollars of liquidity sitting above us from 70 to 72K, that is what is going to propel us into a giant meat stick go boom scenario for Bitcoin. And it's going to look exactly like that. So, it makes a lot of sense for Bitcoin to follow. Looking at MicroStrategy, it's giving us more hints that, that is, what's to come for Bitcoin relatively soon. Like we could see it on this weekly candle or next week's, or this monthly or next monthly. But I think it's inevitable that we see something very similar to what we're seeing in MicroStrategy. And I think that's just a hint. It's just giving us the hints right now.
It's like the only thing. It's like the only thing a man can believe in is just that we're gonna do this. You have no other option but to believe in it. I don't know. I'm just like, man, like, and don't even make me bring up ETH here, man. Like, don't even.
I won't.
I mean, look at this. Like what is happening, guys? What is happening? MicroStrategy versus ETH. Oh my gosh. I mean, I know it's not even like a real comparison, right? Like, why would you really compare them? It's just like, it's just crazy, It's just so wild.
For the same purpose.
What'd you say?
They're bought for the same purpose, but the performance is polar opposite.
Yep. Well, what's with all the noises from Discord lately? I'm closing it. It's like
I muted the alerts, and my life is so much like my mind is so clear now that I don't have to hear the.
Very
I think
annoying.
it's something to do with Halloween too, or something.
I think they just added a bunch of new sounds,
Yeah,
like alert sounds. Just for fun, let's do this. MSTR divided by ETH.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just for fun.
Oh my god.
Yep. Here it is.
Wow, man. Damn,
I mean, all you had to do was just buy this accumulation range right here, and you just went nuts. You just went absolutely nuts. And then how about this? Let's just put MSTR against Bitcoin just for fun.
That might.
I mean, this is actually real,
I love the tweet that somebody put out yesterday where it was like, if you bought SOL 48 hours ago, you've outperformed holding ETH for the last year.
Oh my god.
It's over. Oh, it's over. I mean, MicroStrategy breaking out against Bitcoin. It'll be really interesting to see what happens like right here. Take out these highs. It'll be really, really interesting to see what happens right here. I feel like that honestly will play. It's like you've got your range low, range low, and then pretty damn obvious range high. Like, I kind of think this will play. Like, this might be when Bitcoin This might be when Bitcoin catches the rotation up here.
Yeah.
And they actually start bidding the underlying commodity rather than just MicroStrategy. So
it's kind of a good summary of where crypto is itself, right? Like we are all kind of bidding underlying beta to Bitcoin, waiting for Bitcoin to do the move itself is kind of, that's been cooking up. But part of me feels like that liquidity vacuum, like that will make it an even larger liquidity vacuum if it's going to break higher, right? Is the fact that maybe people are beginning to the reason that we had such a great pump in October was because people were criminally underallocated to Bitcoin. I don't know if we're quite to that skew that we were back then, because a big reason that we pumped in October was because of CME futures and TradFi being underallocated. But I mean, if everybody is just allocating to Bitcoin beta, at what point are they underallocated, like you said, Max, to the actual asset that the underlying of what they're trading? So
I would argue that they're underexposed or, under collateralized to the underlying commodity now. Like you're reaching like crazy levels of I don't know, like a divergence between the two. It just eventually, like there's a huge catch-up trade, or your beta kind of corrects back down, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to call MicroStrategy necessarily, but I don't know. It's just like, how long can they draw this out? It feels like any second they're going to move this thing. Like you're going to blink and it's just going to be gapped up, but someone has to bid it, right? Somebody out there has to bid it. So I don't know. What do we want to look at, guys?
Anything. I mean, comments, if you guys want to, it is Friday. We will take community suggestions on today of all days, just not of your extreme bottom of the barrel shit coins. We will not. We'll be overlooking those comments. So keep them respectful. And I mean, if you post a ticker, we're going to know. We're going to know right away if we're going to be looking at it. So just keep that in mind.
I actually don't hate ETH here locally. You are technically holding trend. And I just know that if this breaks, I mean, I'll say when, right? A man has to dream. You have to, at some point, you have to believe in something. When this range breaks to the upside for ETH, and you finally get above, this previous range low, things can change really, really quickly, because then suddenly this becomes the biggest bear trap I've ever seen, but they won't trap me. When you get back above this region, right? You do this. Then it just becomes such a soft toss to higher, right?
Well, look
It has
at
to happen first. What'd you say?
I mean, structure looks bullish, and if you look at ETH's bear market, right, we had a very similar formation, just on a higher time frame and a longer period of time. We had that just ETH riding that trend, into a flat top, and eventually we went on our run. Basically, that entire bear market, that bear market low into that flat top, and now we're kind of doing something very similar, just on a lower time frame. I agree. I think it looks extremely bullish. This looks like a reversal in the makings here. Whether we run any lows before that, I went on Discord and said this morning, like, I think the local low for ETH is in. And I think we're going to continue higher, even possibly into the weekend. Tommy mentioned the sentiment on ETH, pretty much at all-time lows, right? Anyone that was holding on and enduring, as even those participants are starting to give up, moving money over to Sol or do whatever. But that's kind of what you need, similar to what we saw to Bitcoin after the ETF launch, right? Basically straight down, 12 to 50% move on Bitcoin after the ETF launch. You kind of get that, the Bitcoin ETF's a failure, Bitcoin's toast, this and that. you get that extreme of sentiment to the downside, and then it goes on to rip 85% to the upside and rips everyone's head off. So I really like where we're at. I like the sentiment as well as the chart. Put it all together. I think we have a bullish reversal, on the horizons for ETH.
Dude,
I really do.
the sentiment is probably the worst I've ever seen it. And I remember
I would
very
agree.
vividly last cycle being like literally afraid that I was holding ETH last cycle. I remember I was holding ETH and it was nuking against Bitcoin right as Bitcoin was about to go into price discovery. And I remember looking at all these like Bitcoin accounts just being like, ETH is dead. It will never pump again. Like celebrating the death of Ethereum. We always joke about that one Clubhouse talk. We have the screenshot of it. And it's like, I actually think the sentiment with ETH is way worse now because you have Sol performing so well. Last cycle, you didn't have like a top tier L1 that was really like arguably and measurably stealing Ethereum's thunder, right? You had a lot of projects that were new and obviously went on to do well, like BNB and Sol, but the competition this cycle is real for ETH. Like there's a real discussion to be had about like the Ethereum killer. There really is a discussion to be had. There wasn't a legitimate competitor last cycle until much later in the cycle. The sentiment right now is horrible on ETH. I don't think it could be much worse. And to be fair, it's for good reason, right? But I will say, if this is overblown fear, there has not been a better time to buy ETH because of how dog shit the sentiment is and how cooked the chart is, given where I think Bitcoin's going.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about ETH, and I'm sure a lot of people remember, is this rhetoric. I mean, we had Solunavax and obviously Phone, more so Solunavax last cycle, that when they pumped, I think it was a universal belief that, okay, like these L1s are experiencing so much success because ETH existed and they're beta to ETH. Therefore, all roads kind of lead back, and as far as value accrual goes, back to ETH, right? Like everything is going to go back to ETH. And because there was almost like this complacency over, ETH as a first mover, there was like this complacency that value would always come back to ETH, and that nothing that these products built would have a better product market fit than what ETH was capable of doing. But we're seeing this cycle that that's not true. One, Solana has a better product market fit for the current crypto native class, which wants to speculate on meme coins. ETH is kind of, ETH's kind of in purgatory because yes, you can speculate on meme coins, but it's just way easier. And obviously there's way more activity on Solana. That's largely self-fulfilling. But that's just kind of what's happening. All you can really do on ETH is like DeFi lending right now, which was very hot in 2020, but not quite so much right now, where people are looking for these insane ROI flips on meme coins rather than, right, like farming APRs or APYs. So yeah, I'm gonna say what I've said before, that I think ETH needs to, like, there needs to be some sort of new niche, some new utility to use ETH, because I know the irony of this statement is not lost on me, but like ETH needs a fundamental like reason for people to bid it. And everybody's like, oh, fundamentals, we're in crypto, brother. You don't need fundamentals to bid ETH. Fundamentals are number go up. Well, as we're seeing with ETH and Sol's relationship directly, this is not 100% accurate, right? There's clearly fundamentals at play when you look at the Sol ETH pair and the reason that people are using the chains. So I do think that if ETH has a new catalyst, right, people are going to bid it. I've always said the tokenization of assets, if BlackRock wants to champion that probably is what ETH's future looks like going forward. But it does need to carve out that fundamental niche in a space where we increasingly joke about how fundamentals don't really matter, but they do. And we're seeing that impact the ETH and the Sol price in real time.
I agree with you, and I don't know what that is. I'm still really bullish on ETH DeFi. Like, I actually use it. I've had money in Aave for years, and it survived. I literally was just like, I kissed it goodbye when ETH went to $800. I was like, Aave's going down, and I have money in there, and I'm not putting more in to try to save a loan that I think the platform literally might go down on, and they survived that. Aave is fantastic. Like, I am actually very bullish ETH DeFi because I use it and I see its potential. It's fantastic, right? It literally makes you, when you use it, you literally start to think to yourself, like, why would I ever put money in a bank? As long as this shit's not going to zero, like, this is what banking should be. This is what like a utopia banking feels like. Is like having your assets in one spot, instant access to, fair market rate, interest only debt that accrues. It's fantastic. I love it. I love it more than anything. It's the best. But I don't know if ETH DeFi alone is enough of a narrative this cycle. Maybe, it's possible, but this cycle's been dominated by shitcoining.
Yeah.
That's the antithesis of ETH DeFi is shitcoining. Like, you can borrow against like 5 different tickers, like that's it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is. I mean, I would say like my worst case with ETH is just that it gets bid as speculative proxy for bidding Bitcoin beta by people that aren't comfortable with anything that's not a top 2, right? Like, you can bid it through an ETF. So eventually Bitcoin will bid, and I think that the boomers will just bid ETH because they're like, oh, I know what ETH is. It's got good name recognition. Okay. And they'll buy into the like, oh, it's the internet layer of, whatever. So I don't know.
I think you could sell boomers on the idea that ETH is like the decentralized Fed and everything else is like a bank on it. But I think ETH DeFi and lending would pick up if majors pumped a lot from here, right? Like, people make money and they want to borrow or take out a loan against their holdings in majors so that they can speculate on altcoins. I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. So I'm just going to keep banging the drum that like we want to pump majors as hard as possible because the wealth effect that it creates throughout the space is a net positive for all of crypto, not just majors, but altcoins.
Yeah. ETH needs that wealth effect because there's a lot of ETH beta out there that looks ready to go. Obviously, everything's waiting on Bitcoin, but it's just not going to catch that big pump without ETH moving hard. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough way to make a living being dependent on ETH not being a pile of dog poop. So I don't know. Sol is cool. ETH is not cool. Sol is fast. ETH is slow. Sol is cheap. ETH is expensive. I don't know. It's tough life to live being dependent on ETH. I'll tell you. Tough life to live. Louis, what's up, bro? You've been quiet. What are you doing?
Just thinking about ETH.
You're depressed now. We got in your head.
You
You're
guys are making
upset.
me depressed. I mean, I would agree. I think RWAs are a good niche and fit for that. Where whether BlackRock wants to champion it or not, I think it's inevitable. Just putting real assets on chain. Whether we use ETH for that or not, I don't know. I mean, I would think that
It would have to be, right? Like,
what?
it would have to be ETH to put
Yeah.
real assets on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. And I agree. Yeah, I think it needs to be ETH. I mean, Sol still has issues, right? Yeah, it's fast, but transactions fail all the time. It's a blockchain that's been down multiple different times on different occurrences. Hasn't happened recently, but that's not something you want to see. As far as a decentralized blockchain, kind of doesn't make sense. It kind of just takes away the purpose of a decentralized chain if it's going to go down, right?
Oh, I don't
So
think
I
anyone
think,
promised that Sol was decentralized. I think everyone's just been like, I don't care about
yeah, people don't care
decentralization.
about
Like, give me
yeah,
centralized, fast, and cheap. No one
right.
cares about it anymore.
Yeah, until it goes down, and you're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
wait, like,
Yeah.
yeah, or your transactions aren't going through, and it's like, what the hell? So, I mean, I think ETH is super dependable, and it's lasted the test of time as far as that goes. But we'll see. DeFi as well. It can be lucrative. It can be a useful way to kind of be your own bank in a sense. which is obviously, cryptocurrency. Is it like a super, super like innovative technology? Not really. It really isn't. I think like our super, uh, lucrative and innovation technology is going to be AI, right? That's kind of what it is. But it is a transformation and a addition to finance. How we transfer money, how we transfer assets, how we interact with money and assets. And being your own bank, not being dependent on other banks and institutions that kind of basically hold you hostage. And I think that's still it's more or less a financial revolution than a technology revolution, in my opinion. People taking control of their own finances. So, I still believe that that is the way for ETH and crypto. Not even just ETH, just cryptos moving forward. That's kind of the base case for it. Payments, banking, assets on chain. Because like we're seeing time and time again, like there's three of us up here, right? We're all relatively the same age and same age group. Relatively well off, but I don't know if any of us own a house, right? Like for being the age we are and doing as well as we do, it's still kind of tough for us to own a property, right? And for people that are doing less work, less better than us, like what are they going to do? So like, you know, kind of assets on chain that you could own a portion of a property, right? Versus or a piece of a property on a blockchain versus being able to purchase a whole house and you own that with other people that own the asset on chain. So I think that's the future of investing and stuff like that for our age group. And yeah, I think that's very promising and what we should be looking forward to for ETH and crypto as a whole.
Yeah, that would be really cool, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think about like syndicating real estate investment deals where you can actually have like liquid shares of a property. That would be really, really cool. But I do want
I'm
to.
really bullish on that.
We got a little pessimistic on ETH, as every man should, because I mean, it's ETH. But I want to just remind you guys why I'm still actually very, very bullish ETH. Okay, because we've seen this before. And I will remind you exactly what happened last cycle. Okay, so up top here, we have Bitcoin. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put ETH BTC down below. So this is ETH paired against Bitcoin, right? This is the valuation. This is what everybody's waffling about. All right. So, yeah, we'll just leave that like this. Okay. So, what do we see right here? We're going to draw out the Bitcoin all-time high because I think that ETH is actually about to surprise a lot of people. Like, I really do. I really think it's going to surprise a lot of people. So this is the previous cycle all-time high for Bitcoin. Previous cycle all-time high. Put that up top. So basically ETH, like, okay, let's look at this for a second. If this is ETH BTC, if you were looking at this last cycle, this literally looks like the dev rug to shitcoin. Like this looks like it's over. Like if you were looking at this chart last cycle, you'd be like, oh, this pair is literally dead forever. You know what I mean? Like this is dunzo. Dev pulled the liquidity. It's over. And then obviously we ended up pumping pretty hard off of that, right? Out of that low. I mean, from the bottom, it bottomed at 0.016 and we went to just shy of 0.09, right? It's like a 4 or 5x, okay, from cycle low to cycle peak. So pulling back up Bitcoin here, just looking at the timing of things. When Bitcoin was ramping up to its previous all-time high and actually broke through, this is where ETH BTC was. Still literally in shitville, all right? Like still in this giant bottom range of death right over here. Like horrible price action, right? And then Bitcoin goes into price discovery. And then from that point forward, once Bitcoin finally smashed the all-time high, what we saw was serious Ethereum outperformance, despite how terrible this pair looked at the time. Basically, from that point, you saw ETH BTC for the next year go up 200%, 3x against Bitcoin over the next year. As soon as Bitcoin broke that previous cycle high, immediately. So I can only look at it like this. All right, I can only look at it like this. I have to look at it and go, all right, here's our previous cycle high. We are still stuck underneath it for now. And ETH is once again in shitville. All right, ETH is in shitville. But in my view, there's a pretty decent chance that once Bitcoin decides it's finally going to break the all-time high, which maybe it's literally like on election night or something. Maybe they're going to make us wait until, November 5th. At this point, it kind of feels like I just can't believe how long they've drawn this thing out for. But it kind of makes me think, okay, we're going to do the same thing again. The cycle really is not that different. I mean, imagine if the next year is really bullish for ETH. Would you take another 200% move against Bitcoin? What if it did this? Bitcoin goes into price discovery and ETH finally catches that big move. That's what it did last cycle. It's doing the exact same thing. Right? It's doing the exact same thing that it's done in previous cycles. As much as it sucks, and it's crazy how long we've been stuck here. Like, I mean, it's wild how long we have been stuck here. I feel like my life is flying by and I'm just watching like another week go by, another week go by, another week go by. Like I blink and it's like I go to work Monday and suddenly it's Friday and nothing has happened. It's crazy.
We're like Odysseus and his men trying to return home from the Trojan War, and there's just like there's like a new thing every stop.
Oh my gosh, so true. So I don't know. I'm tired, Grandpa. I'm tired, Grandpa.
I mean, if you look at just the previous Bitcoin cycles, we're still kind of on track. I was looking at
Brother,
it this
perfectly.
morning. Yeah,
Perfectly. I'll pull
and I
that
think
up right now.
we're actually looking very similar to more like 2017 than last cycle. I mean, obviously we had COVID last cycle, so I think that might have threw some stuff off, right? But around that, each time, basically from the market low to where we're at now, that's 700. That's anywhere from 700 to 800-day mark is kind of where we broke the old all-time high and started to do that parabolic phase of Bitcoin. And like right now, from the actual low to where we are now, we're about 728 days in. Whereas 2017 we saw us break the old all-time high at 693 days, and give or take in 2017 anywhere from 720 because it kind of traded at above the old all-time high for a couple of weeks, but anywhere from like 700 to 780 days. So I mean we're right on track. You know what I mean? It's just us being getting to the old all-time high quicker than we normally have kind of threw us all for a loop and has made this last 6 months so much worse because normally we'd be just like chugging along and slowly grinding higher, which is way easier than a 6 month consolidation of sideways where alts bleed to crap. So
Yeah. Here's the cycle comparison that Louis is talking about, guys. Like we technically are right on track with where we have been in previous cycles. So I put some weight in this. I really do. Bitcoin is kind of choppy and annoying between the halving and the election. We are almost at the election. But then typically right after the election, you start moving up pretty quickly.
yeah. What do we think about the election? Do we think we're going to like just continue to chop until we get our results and then kind of get our sure thing? Like, is it this last bit of like uncertainty, or is like basically the market kind of knows either way, like Kamala or Trump doesn't really change much? I mean, crypto maybe a little more bullish leaning for Trump, um, but I don't know. I'm torn on it. I think we could start punting before it, but I think it's just going to be volatile regardless until it's over with the set winner.
I think it's hard to dispute the data that we have available that the market does prefer a Trump victory. I think long term, like, it ultimately doesn't really matter too much who wins the election, but I think definitely, like, Q4 could be more bullish if Trump wins. And that's just based on the data that we have. That's not even getting political. Like, he's up in the polls, he's up in the betting markets, you know. I think the market based, like, looking at the things that are getting bid right now, it appears as though the market is planning and expecting and anticipating a Trump victory. So, again, that's literally just data. That's literally just data that the market, I think, views him as a better president for risk assets. So,
Yeah.
if you don't care about risk assets, then doesn't matter for you. If you're a one issue voter and you're like, just pump my bags, he's your guy.
I think you're both right in the sense that the market's kind of already been like effectively pricing in a Trump victory at this point. You can and the odds that we've been basically correlated to Trump presidential election odds since like the 2022 bottom. So like Max said, it's kind of hard to dispute. This market has been trading higher on the idea that Trump is more favorable for risk assets. The way I think the election will go, I mean, for one, front end volatility is a lot higher, than obviously the rest of November and really until like the end of December. So I kind of feel like regardless of what happens during the election, like volatility will probably come down. And whatever that means for crypto, whatever that means for equities, volatility, will come down likely after the election. Markets are pricing in a Trump victory. The thing I think that markets are maybe waiting on, and we'll see how much, if it even matters, but the possibility for a red or blue sweep throughout the ticket, right? Because it's one thing for a conservative or for a Democrat to win the presidency, and another thing for one side to basically sweep, the House, Senate, and presidency. And I do think to some degree that could impact markets maybe a little bit as well. Although to what degree, I'm not sure. Right. I just know I hear billionaires talk all the time about how their preferred market conditions are irrelevant. The presidency is irrelevant as long as you have kind of like this healthy divide between Congress and throughout Congress. So I think that's worth maybe paying attention to.
Yeah. Well, also policy, right? Like neither of them are saying, yeah, we're going to hunker down and cut spending and cut liquidity out. Both
I
are.
do love seeing the that I might not have an income tax. I do love that.
Yeah. Like they're both
That's
looking
crazy.
for ways to spend more money and not really concerned about the debt. Which is technically bullish for assets. It's not bullish for the U.S. dollar, but it's bullish for assets. So I think in that regard, both. That's why some people have been asking me, like, does it matter? It's like, I don't really think it matters, right? Like, the government's going to continue to do what it does. I mean, obviously, I like to see one side win over the other, but it's all the same dog and pony show where they're both going to continue to spend, continue the U.S. deficit, and continue to devalue the dollar, which in essence is the play, right? We're in assets because the devaluation of the dollar and it's inflating away. The value of the dollar is inflating, so the only way to escape that and to remain above water is to hold assets, hard assets, right? So that's basically the play, and neither candidate is looking to cut down on that spending and that devaluation. So it's likely to continue regardless.
It's like Paul Tudor Jones said this week, right? All roads lead back to inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking at Pepe right here, guys. I mean, Pepe is just, it's just in its purest sense. It's just, for one, it's our king meme of this cycle, in my opinion. And it's really just ETH beta, So it's like, it's so frustrating, like the timing of these little ETH jeets, it's like eventually it's not going to matter, but it's like you can see pretty damn clearly like what's going on here. So ETH down below, Pepe up top. It's like, look at this. ETH starts nuking, Pepe starts nuking, It's just, look at this. ETH tops, Pepe tops, right? Look at all the lows. Look at all the lows. Like, oh, what's happening to Pepe? Call Vitalik. Call him. Call him and ask him, right? So, I mean, this is obviously what we want to avoid is, ETH somehow coming back too deep here, because then you're going to get a pretty severe retrace on your ETH beta, right? You can see the relationship. So it's like you really need to see ETH bounce around these levels, because if you don't, I mean, imagine if ETH came, okay, I don't mean to FUD, right? I'm just saying, like, if ETH came down into here, you can understand, like, you'd get like this on Pepe, right? Just because ETH is a pile of steaming poop. That's it. But it's like, just to understand what you're trading is so important. It's so important, right? Do I want to be long Pepe? Well, am I bullish ETH here? Right? Not all at once, boys. Stop talking over each other. You guys need
it's like
some
you
coffee.
said, Pepe is ETH beta, right? It will go as ETH goes, and if ETH goes up, it will go up exponentially more. I think that's still my view on ETH. And therefore, I like Pepe as long as ETH is above the August lows.
Yeah.
Maybe if we all just bid ETH instead of buying beta the last 5-6 months, we could have saved it. Maybe we're part of the problem.
No way. No way we're the problem, Louis.
Couldn't be us.
No way.
No, I think this is a good point though. Like, memes that have wormhole have obviously performed really well, which doesn't really speak very well of like shitcoining on ETH, but I think it's, for meme coins, a path to make them less dependent on the correlation to it. I mean, think about if some of that Solana on-chain wealth effect bled into something like Pepe and obviously like MOG, how much they'd probably be trading a lot higher, in my opinion. And you probably, I mean, I'm sure you'd still have the same amount of like speculative gambling that's occurring on Solana on a weekly basis for new coins, but instead of rotating those profits back to something like Sol, or I mean, maybe like Popcat or Whiff, those profits go into something like Pepe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just wonder, like, I mean, it doesn't take much for ETH to pump. Well, okay, I didn't say that right. It doesn't take much of a pump for ETH to really send stuff like Pepe, right? Because if we look at the last big pump, when ETH put in, a break of structure to the upside, just like it did, over here, you can see that ETH went up from that high, that break of the high. Actually, let's measure from the low. ETH went up, 90%, which isn't like that crazy. I mean, it's a nice move, right? But it's not like it pulled like a 5x or something. And you saw Pepe rip, 10x, more than 10x, right? Just from ETH going up 90%. So, I mean, I just look at this and I'm like, all right, what if ETH actually did kind of go crazy, right? Like, what if ETH could actually do this, right? And go up to like 6,000, then that's when you're really going to get excited, because it just doesn't take much for like premier ETH memes to pump. Like, ETH could go up 150, 200% for the cycle. That could be good. And you're probably going to see Pepe literally do like, I don't know. That's crazy. But like, you could see Pepe do something like this, right? Literally just off of ETH going to like 6,000, 7,000, something like that. 100x GK.
I was looking at that too.
Oh, man. I mean, he's not entirely wrong, bro. Like, people are just nervous right now. And I see so many people. The most common question that I get is like, I mean, it's more like commentary. People are always like, hey, like, man, I just can't wait to take profits and like get out, and like they're so nervous and so eager to just like get out of this market.
You're here forever.
You're here for a long time. And I will say this. It doesn't feel like it right now, but what's going to plague most of you guys is actually selling too early in this next phase. I'm not saying it happens tomorrow, but I'm saying you might end up selling way too early. Like, a lot of you guys are going to be really, really eager to sell. Like, ETH will pump to like 3,400 and you guys will be like, oh, taking profits on everything. Like, and then it's just going to double from there, or like Bitcoin goes to like 85K and you're like, we finally got the breakout. Like, now I'm out. I'm taking profits for real this time. And then it doubles from there. So I'm just saying, like, most of you guys, because of the psychological torment of this giant range that we've been in, are so eager to get out of it. Like, you are ready to be done. And I get it. Trust me, my job with crypto is tougher than you and what you have to go through. Like, I have to get up every day and talk about this garbage price action for literally like 8 hours a day. I'm not even kidding. Like, all I do is talk about crypto all day long. I don't get to go and touch grass. I don't get to not show up one day. Trust me, nobody feels it more than me. But I am acutely aware of what happens when you break out of an 8-month range to the upside. It's not a little tiny pump. The wealth effect will be real, and you guys will suffer from selling too early. If you're selling for profit, that's great. You can never really go wrong. But I'm telling you, most of you guys are going to sell too early. Most of you guys, because unironically, you guys are early to this. The fact that you're positioned now in a lot of this stuff, you are unironically early to this cycle. And your eagerness and your frustration with the current price action is going to cause you to sell too early. And that's okay. Right? And that's okay. I'm just letting you know, like, when ETH pumps to 3,500, I'm not going to be taking profits. When ETH pumps to 4 or 5K, I'm not going to be taking profits. I'm going to be waiting for very, very clear signals, time-based signals and structural signals. Not just, oh, finally we broke out a little bit. We got a little pump. Oh, I just can't wait to get out. Nah, this is when you lock in. This is when you dial it in. You don't go through 8 months of range and chop and bullshit just to sell on the first little tiny breakout. No, make those bears suffer. And they will. It's coming. Bro, what are you talking about? Max playing the victim now? What the fuck are you talking about? What did I say that triggered your stupid comment? Like, what did I say that had anything to do with that? I genuinely don't even know where you pulled that from. Unbelievable levels of just random low IQ-ness. I don't even know what that's talking about. Like, what are you talking about?
Ranging environments create the need to drum up some fan fiction, Max.
Dude, people literally are just delirious, man. I'm picturing guys in the comments like walking through the Sahara Desert with like this much water. It's like murky water that they found in a puddle, and they're like dehydrated and haven't eaten in 2 weeks, and they're just like, Max playing victim now. And it's just like all made, it's like a delusion, Bro, what are you talking about? I just show up every single day and talk about the market. I just told you we're going to pump harder than you think. Unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable.
I'm so dehydrated.
Oh, man. Well, I actually made a video on this. People always, I wanted to cover this. So people always ask me, they're like, when are you going to take profits, bro? Like, when are you going to sell? When are you going to exit the market? I actually made a video on that. It's probably coming out within like an hour. Like, it's coming out today. So I'm very clear. Like, I can hold through all the chop, all the volatility. Like, I've been here through, the August. I've been here through July, August, September drops for Bitcoin down below 55K, holding like full port altcoins, buying more, like ready to go, like ready to go. And my bags are packed. And it's like, it's not going to be easy, guys. Like it is. Holding altcoins with size is not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Like everybody thinks like, oh, I'm just gonna like buy these altcoins and like just kick back and chill and like not think about it and sell. Like I'm all good. It is psychological torment, you know.
But look at the
Holding
Bobcat
through the
chart.
volatility is the toughest thing. Holding through it is so much harder than pressing the buy or sell button. Buying is easy. Selling is easy. Holding through it with conviction, sitting on your hands is so incredibly difficult. Everybody thinks it's the easy part. This is the hard part.
Well, look at a chart like Popcat. I know we got some requests for that in the comments as well. But if you look at the all-time Popcat chart, like that thing has had how many 80% drawdowns before trading at the current highs? I mean, probably at least 4 or 5. So, people want to make holding altcoins and holding shitcoins out, like you said, Max, to be the easiest part. But like, if you held through this, you have to have a mental illness, man. But they won. They won because they believed in something.
All right, so let's actually look at this real quick.
I was looking at the derivs for this actually during the show.
Tommy, you should short this right now.
I think this will be like if for whatever reason majors don't break out, this will be maybe the best short in the market.
That's like a classic 3-drive high.
I mean, bro, look at this chart. Like this is what Tommy's talking about. Like when you are here, like there is no guarantee you're going up here. Like you have a thesis, you have analysis. This is like if you held up here and you had like, 100K and then suddenly down here you have 30K, you're feeling terrible about yourself, and then it goes back up and you're like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Oh, now we have 200K. And then you go back down here, and you're down to 40K again. It's like, this is pain. Like holding through this and like staying focused on it and believing in it, like is not easy.
Nauseating.
It's not easy. And like in hindsight, you're like, oh, I could have held through that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm watching you guys on chain, man. It's pretty crazy watching these people trade on chain. It's just like absolute
Louis and Tommy,
chaos.
I have a call I have to hop on, so I'm passing it to you guys for the rest of the show. All right.
Sounds good. I've been exposed. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a little dip here on Bitcoin, low time frame. I do like this area right here. FEG on the hourly, 67K to possibly come back. We also have one down here as well. Let's see.
I think moves like this morning are what makes it's just like this new regime. I'm sure you noticed, Louis, because you also trade lower time frame as I do, but like they hunt perps around New York Open like nobody's business, and they will trick you into thinking that it's the move, and then they'll just sell it for the rest of the day. So you had people chasing into the high, and everybody who shorted last night's dip thinking that it was a swing fail of those previous highs they probably had their stop taken before the move actually happened. So I mean, it's kind of an impossible market for perp traders right now.
Yeah, no, and that's why I haven't touched. I mean, here and there I'll dabble, but just like I'm glad I stopped. But we got about halfway through our Bitcoin range. Like 3 months in, I was trying to catch the bottom, catch the lows. Got burned a bunch of times, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Like this is just not the environment to trade. And I'm glad I did because we got another 3 or 4 months of the same, right? And I know. People trading perps got absolutely annihilated over the last 6 months, and they're still kind of taking a beating. This is like extremely tough market conditions to try and trade perps. with tight stop losses, because the market makers are coming for them. Until we get a clear break. I mean, we are trending, right? Like, this is a nice trend, basically since October 10th. But within that trend, you get stuff like this, right? Like stuff we saw. What was this, last week or 2 weeks ago? Like bang bang, like shorts taken out, longs taken out, and then continue the trend. And it's going to continue to happen like that, in my opinion. So I am looking to maybe start to get involved again, since we are, starting to flip more from a range environment to a trend environment. Obviously, that's a little more predictive, because we're still technically in our Bitcoin range, right? But trying to catch that move from ranging to trending, can lead to some good entries on some perp trades. So I am looking to get back in the game a little bit here and there, because I'm a way better trend trader than I am range trader. Just because inherently I'm bullish, right? And if I'm accumulating positions, and I'm trying to scalp Bitcoin, short, let's say it's short Bitcoin at a range high, it messes with your mental, right? At least for me, right? Like, because then I'm hoping Bitcoin goes down, and then it kind of messes with my my mindset. I'd like to stay in one mindset, accumulate that range rather than trying to scalp it. And then when we break from that range, go into a trending environment, I can start taking advantage of pullbacks and stuff like that, looking for to long on perps. And eventually you do kind of have to fine tune your strengths, because if you don't, the market will take advantage of that for sure.
No, you're right. And for me, it's like I've kind of combated that same feeling that you just kind of described, right? Like, you have an investor's mentality, but it's always kind of conflicting with that trader's mentality that knows the lower time frame maybe a bit better, and then knows it probably makes sense for us to come down and test these level of liquidity, but I'd like to remain long biased. No, I mean, I think that's a very salient point, because something that I've done in the past, I've obviously been, and I think about like 2022, I was very bearish through pretty much the entire downtrend. I stuck in cash, and there were opportunities throughout 2022, even still, that I missed completely because I was so stuck in that mindset, right? That rather than investing in good assets, you're just kind of stuck in, oh, well, it's a downtrend, so I don't really have any interest in investing. And you look at 2022, you had, I mean, AVAX didn't make new highs and Sol didn't, but obviously Luna had a huge move in the spring of 2022 higher before everything fell apart. You had GMT, for example, the running Ponzi that pulled like a 10 or 15x after the Binance listing, maybe even more than that. But there's always going to be opportunity in this market to the upside. I think having, even if you are bearish biased, right? Like, keeping a stack on the side that's more focused on lower time frame trading, that's separate from your investments and your holdings, and you kind of trade around those, right? I think that's the best way that I've found to kind of combat that. Hold on, I'm gonna have to, brother. You're spamming the chat. I don't want to have to ban you because I haven't seen you before, but if I see another one, I'm gonna ban you. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, it's such a volatile market. You have to be careful blending your opinions on various time frames too closely together.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's just like part of just learning yourself and learning how how you operate best, and eventually you figure it out, or your capital will deplete to zero. Um,
Yeah.
Same thing on ETH here. Like, how many times have I called, like, you're in the Discord, like, how many times have I called low time frame moves, but like just completely just not even traded it? It's just like, I'm watching it, I know what's happening, but I know the real money is just accumulating down here, just waiting for the spot gains, because that's where the real money is going to be made this cycle. I'm sure you could complement that with perps and stuff like that, but the real money is just accumulating spot positions, and selling those over the next 3 to 6 months. That's the easiest and most that's the way I've made a majority of my money in this market for sure. As it comes to perps, I've made it and lost a bunch many times over, until I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I got to figure something out.
I've only
And that's what I'm
ever,
looking for.
when it comes to, I think it just comes down to like knowing yourself a little bit and your tendencies. Like, I've only ever hit one massive long trade, maybe two, I guess, but it wasn't quite as big. I mean, I've only really hit one massive perps trade to the long side. Most of my biggest perps winnings come to the short side, which I think is a pretty good like representation that I like to keep that account on the side of my holdings to kind of trade separately. I think if you get too caught up in catching every move on leverage, you will inevitably blow yourself up. Like there's about a 99.9% chance that's going to happen if you're just only focused on leverage. Because odds are you don't have an edge that is good enough to just be trading every move on leverage.
No, yeah. You'll learn eventually. You might hit, you're like me. Like I my first trading account, I honestly knew less, right? The less I knew, like I just knew some basic TA, ran up a trading account from 1,000 up to like a $20,000, right? And I was like, oh man, like this is easy, like easy money.
I'm a
Like I'm the
genius.
best at this. I'm a genius, right? And the trend started to flip the other way, and I was just stuck in my ways, didn't really know what to look for, and that 20K was gone faster than I made it. And I did that 2 or 3 times before I was like, okay, like I can't do this anymore. I mean, gratefully, I ran those accounts up before running them back down, so technically it was more or less house money, but still, it's just hard to stay consistent, especially in these environments. I mean, yeah, look at ETH here. Like something like ETH, like I wouldn't be opposed to like taking a stab long down here. Like we come down, we have this hourly FEG. You got this little double bottom. If you zoom out, we have basically, we have market structure, right? We have our demand right here, right? We had liquidity, which we backfilled. This is our little fake breakout. Popped up, fake breakout. Breakout traders get wrecked. You come back, you fill this liquidity that we've done, and now we're trying to form a bottom here. On the lower time frames, we're getting a pullback, 1% to the downside. Just messing with people's emotions. But this is, I had this alert here, literally just front ran that alert. But I was looking at this morning, and I was like, if we come back down here, this is a good, good possible, long entry, right? To catch this breakout on ETH. Something like this, but you might not even be able to get it if we just continue to push higher. Just put your stop below these wicks. I love how we're just talking about how you shouldn't be trading perps. I'm giving perps setups, but it is what it is. But yeah, I was looking for possibly something like this, and we can still get that. But yeah, I just think it's a lot of market maker games down here until we get our true breakouts. So it's tough trading out there for sure, but I do like something like this for a long setup on ETH because, like I was saying earlier in the show, the sentiment is just down in the dirt. I like the structure that we're putting in on the medium to high time frames. Plus, with the seasonality, at our backs, basically like in our favor for upside. Now is the time to start looking for these longs, or at least just wait till you break structure, and then you can try to trade it that way. Me, just being that I'm in these markets every day, and like I have to be right. Catching something like this is worth the risk reward. Something like this where you can trade it back up into your range. A 7 risk reward trade is kind of a no brainer. So something I'm just going to keep an eye on. For the lower time frames, give you guys some just some trade setups and stuff like that, some actionable stuff. I can't give you guys too much. Obviously, that's, designated for the Discord. But, every now and again, you get some free alpha here. So, yeah, I might be looking for an ETH long down here sooner than later, especially with the sentiment the way it is.
I've just been reading the comments. Sorry. They're cracking me up. I love the on-chain tribalism between Base, Sol, and ETH mainnet guys. But no, I think this kind of needs to be the spot for ETH, right? Like we've kind of talked. I know some people want derivatives commentary from me. We've talked about, at least on the Discord calls, really that 2450 level. If you follow OI and you follow it over the weekend, as I do, probably not many people that will say that proudly, but I will. There was a huge spike in longs that came in over the weekend around 24.50. I mean, that's really the beginning of the impulse candle, and that momentum carried us all the way up to like 27.50. I didn't even realize it was like a 300-point move on ETH, but yeah, I mean, that impulse candle, I think, kind of has to be protected, or else ETH is once again just completely beholden to whatever Bitcoin is going to do. But right now, I mean, as much maligned as ETH is, and as I will continue to FUD it, because it's funny for one, but it's protected the lows since early September. So I think that is worth highlighting as well. If that context were to change, then my view on ETH would probably change as well. But I think it's up to Bitcoin at the end of the day, probably still. Right now, Bitcoin's got those two highs from like the last two New York Opens, or from the last two New York sessions. I would really like to see it trade above those. Because I really don't think anybody wants to see Bitcoin lose that October monthly open. That would just be a very bad sign for the entire market. And I think the flip side of that is, if you're breaking above the highs from like last week, despite the fact, and this is where OI could become a meme, right? Everybody wants to talk, okay, OI is a meme. OI's back, being back at the highs is a meme. It will be a meme if you break above like last week's highs and you prove that it doesn't matter anymore, because then Bitcoin probably just gaps up to like 74K.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think we're getting close to that period where, OI and, a lot of these indicators kind of come not obsolete, but less less potent and less actionable than, you would see in a ranging like environment like we've been in. Like, I feel like the OI and stuff in a ranging environment is extremely like useful and very telling. Whereas like when we're in that trending environment, you get like last cycle, right? Like, how many times did we see people call? Sorry about that. How many times did we see people call for like bear divs on Bitcoin, and just price just continued just to rip through those bear divs and make new highs and stuff like that. Similarly, OI, like, there's some big accounts out there harping on the OI, like, but we've seen Bitcoin OI continue to rise and the price continue to rise, right? So like eventually, when your environment's change from like a trending to ranging to a trending environment, you kind of got to switch gears and kind of change tactics as to how you're trading the market. That's basically the hardest thing to do. But I would also agree, for ETH specifically, this is our level, like 2,400. If we start to come back below here, we likely will, revisit these lows, right? But as of now, the way it's looking, especially over the last day or two, I like that we held this support as well as backfilled this liquidity. And I think my main base case is like, this was your fake breakout. This was the manipulation. And then we start to see that true breakout. We've seen that time and time again, throughout the crypto market over the last 6 to 8 months, where you get that fake breakout, catch a lot of people off sides, you run it back down. People just be like, now it's over, back to Hades, right? And then you get the true breakouts, and most people are, both longs and shorts are liquidated, and then you get the real move. So, this is kind of my base case for ETH here. I really do think that we could see ETH kind of start pushing, back to this 3K level, which ultimately is our macro range lows, right? It's like, this is our range we put in basically all of this year. We lost it. And we want this to be a deviation. I mean, it's a pretty long deviation. So I don't know if I would consider it a deviation, but sideways. This is your accumulation back inside the range, and then you go. So in order for ETH to get anything going, we need to get back above this level. But I think we're due at least for a test of an underside test of this, of this major supply here, which kind of goes along with my thesis here, where I think we're basically on the cusp of that breakout, of these local highs, and starting to work on a reclaim of this range. So time will tell, but just to reiterate, the way sentiment's looking, and kind of where we are in the context of where we are in the cycle, Uh, I can't help but to remain bullish here, even though it's not easy. I still can't help to remain bullish here and optimistic that this breakout is closer than most people think. So, time will tell, but that's just kind of my analysis on it as far as sentiment and technicals.
Great stuff as always, Louis. I think this isn't a bad spot for us to look to wrap things up. I think Max just dropped his 10-minute Max video, so y'all should definitely make sure to check that out. They're probably about to head there right now. Therefore, I think it's probably a good time for us to start concluding. But this was y'all's Friday Cook Sesh. If you could leave us a like, we didn't check the like button at all today. I'm gonna trust you guys. I'm gonna
Could be
guess.
better.
I'm gonna guess we're around like what 220, 230.
212.
Oh, wow. I'm all right. Well, you guys could probably lift that number a little bit. I wanted 300. It's okay though. It's a Friday. I won't go too rough on you, but we got a lot of great cooks from Max and Louis today. So, I mean, if you aren't already following them, you definitely should be. I know they're on the team, but they obviously crush it. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up. Unless you have, maybe a chart that you want to leave the audience with, Louis. Maybe some last alpha for the guys sticking around, but I'll leave that to you.
I saw the dual ask for Pepe. We could look at it real quick. Just because that's like, it's a major meme, kind of basically our backbone of the meme market at this point, especially for ETH memes, right? So as far as Pepe is concerned, this is a severe price pinch or coiling, in my opinion, right? You have these lower highs, starting to form into a bunch of higher lows, higher low, higher low, higher low, and basically, this will resolve one way or the other, right? And I've said this on this morning's call. Like a lot of times, I guess you consider this a triangle, right? Because basically you have like price pinching into an apex. Usually what you do see is a false move and then the real move. So whether we're getting that now or not is to be seen. But I do like. I think I'm on log. That's why my lines are messed up. Yeah, there we go. That's better. But what yesterday, 2 days ago, we took a stab below the trend line. Today, let's say we're taking a little stab below. We do have some local lows that could possibly be taken before continuing higher. But whether we do something like this or just come back inside and go, my base case for Pepe is to this resolves higher out of this price pinch. So either it's this or that. Ultimately we hold our key horizontal support, which we are back above now, which is a great start. And once we get back above this key supply here on Pepe, I think we're back off to the races, and hopefully back into price discoveries for Pepe. So here's a Pepe chart. That's basically where I think we're headed right now. Something that looks like this, but time will tell. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's kind of what I'm looking for and watching on Pepe, because I know a bunch of you guys asked. So,
All right. Well, I know how much the crowd loves it's Pepe and really frog coins in general. We did get a super chat, so we can talk about that to end the show more formally. What is your price target for Sol this cycle, Louis? I will let you go first.
I don't really have one. So let's look at the chart. I don't hold Sol. It's not something. I mean, this looks beautiful though. This has definitely been a strong performer. This looks great. This actually looks like MicroStrategy before it freaking just put in its meat stick, right? But let's see. Let's take a look on where we're at. Sol here.
I've got my prediction.
What's your prediction, Tommy? Because this is not something that I have. I mean, I could figure something out,
but so my thoughts on Sol. If we break out, right? I want to preface it with if we break out, I think the target's probably like 800. I think we get probably like a first leg into 500 or 600, and then we get another leg that overshoots it into like probably like 800. In the same way that Sol traded, obviously last cycle, it gave the big leg up. Everybody thought it topped, and then it gave one more higher high before officially topping. That would be my prediction for Sol if majors are about to break out.
So that would kind of line up in between the 2.6 and 3.618 on linear. So somewhere in this range. You're looking up here, which from where we are now, yeah, 4.5, 5x, something like that. It's not a bad risk to reward. Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, Sol has just continued to show strength. It's undeniable. That's where a lot of the money is. That's where a lot of the players are. And I can't see it not continuing to perform well until maybe ETH takes some market share back. But as of now, this looks bullish. This is bullish consolidation, basically under your old all-time high, which likely smashes to the upside. That's usually how these resolve. So, but yeah, currently Sol looking like it's breaking out on the daily. It's got to stick to landing. Obviously, it can't reject here. It's got to hold. A breakout above this local downtrend, and after that, obviously you have old all-time highs on deck, right? Like 258, 260, whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, if Sol continues to lead, I think that's promising for the crypto and alt as well, right? We saw that coming out of the end of 2023. Sol led off the lows, and then the rest of the altcoin market kind of followed. So hopefully we're seeing the same exact thing occur. And we're closer to an alt run than we think. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. I think for me, my opinion is very contingent on the idea that ETH holds the August low and that Bitcoin holds October monthly open. I will say that. I think those need to hold for majors to break out. But if we do break out, then why wouldn't it lead the market again? Ultimately. Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's probably all the cooking that we will do today, but we will be back on Monday, of course. Before we officially wrap up, though, you guys know we have some housekeeping to run through. I am going to share my screen now. But yeah, guys, just a few things before we officially wrap up, right? I'm going to talk about the terminal a little bit. If you're already using it, you know how great of a tool that it is. We've got a lot of different features on it for pretty much every different type of trader. And that will be especially true when this degen section goes live. Obviously, we have our active trader section and our DCA calculator already available. So there is a lot of utility, both if you are actively trading things like derivatives or really just any lower time frame movement, any midterm time frame movement. There is significant, I think there's significant utility in knowing exactly where resting liquidity is, knowing what assets are moving the hardest through things like heat maps, spaghetti charts, and then of course all of the derivatives data that you could possibly ask for, as well as soon this degen tab, which I'm not going to spoil what it's going to be, but I'm excited about it. And I think you guys will be as well, especially if you are in the shitcoin trenches. You will get a ton of utility out of it. And it might even, it probably will replace a lot of the tools that you currently use for on-chain. So just be aware of that. Be excited about it. I'm very excited about it. And the BB terminal will soon have it. So just keep an eye out for that. We worked very hard to bring this product to market, and yeah, I mean, you guys are going to love it if you haven't already tried it. So just stay tuned for that. Obviously, we have packages for the terminal that include the Discord membership as well. So if you're looking for maybe a bit more of an intimate view of our thoughts, we give about 4 hours per day. 4 hours per day. That's not an exaggeration. Sometimes it's actually even more than that. Of content to our subscribers, where we just talk about the market. We give our intimate views, like I said, on charts and everything in between. So make sure to
what we're buying, what we're selling, trade setups, all that stuff.
I mean, it's very comprehensive. Like, you might wonder what our positioning is, what our view on the market is when we're on Market Check. But if you're in the Discord, you know exactly where we stand on everything pretty much every day. So it's a very valuable tool. And it is packaged with the terminal. Of course, guys, we also have our SEC registered hedge fund, BB Wealth Management. We have been operating for a few months now. Obviously, we crushed September, having a good October so far. And we'd love for you to be a part of that as well, right? I mean, it gives you the opportunity to have us potentially manage your capital. And we look to we invest in digital assets, right? And we look to do so in a way that captures their asymmetric history for upside returns while also managing the downside risks posed in any market. So becoming an LP or an accredited investor is something that interests you. We do have more information linked in the description below. But that is not to forget the BB Academy, guys, which you continue to give us such great feedback on. Learning from so many different traders with different skill sets and the way that they analyze markets is invaluable. And I think, in my opinion, that's my favorite part about the BB Academy, is that you get to learn from the entire team and how we analyze markets, which is obviously very, very different from trader to trader. So make sure to check out the BB Academy as well. Finally, guys, we do have our programming. If you loved Market Check today, maybe you're new, maybe you're a regular. If you're a regular, you already know exactly when we'll be back on Monday, but we're live whenever the New York Stock Exchange is open at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So make sure to check us out again on Monday if this is your first time. And if it's not, we look forward to seeing you again. But also make sure to check out Wabi's show, Market Talk. Wabi has been crushing the market lately, and he's been very much in the trenches. So make sure to tune in for his space through the BB Twitter account, which should also be linked in the description below. Stay subscribed and following so you can be notified not just when we go live, but also when we schedule the spaces ahead of time. But yeah, that's it from us, guys. We hope that you have a fantastic weekend. Maybe that means, like Max said, screaming at the charts. Maybe that is getting away from the charts completely. Regardless, we appreciate you guys being here as always. And of course, stay safe. Thanks again.